Good morning. It's June 3rd. Morning, Bob.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, Bob. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm not bad. Beautiful Monday so far.
Yeah, so far so good, huh?
Yeah. How's your weekend?
It was good. It was good. Didn't get a whole lot done. Yesterday was pretty good. Went to church and then went out for breakfast and kind of wandered around Seal Beach and Huntington a little bit. And then Saturday we met. I don't know if you know Mark Evans and Betty Newman, or well, they got married. They're Mark and Betty Evans now, but
Yeah.
they were in our class. I don't know if you're friends with them or not.
Uh, I was a little bit, not tremendous close
Yeah.
friends, but I knew of them and they knew of me, I think.
Okay. Well, we got together with them on Saturday night and went to Clearman's, or I should say Northwoods Inn over
Uh,
in La Mirada.
yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's different.
I think the favorite thing that Joni and we've been there a couple of times, but I think the favorite thing we like to get over there is their uh, cabbage salad at the beginning. That's pretty good.
It really is. It really
Yeah,
is. Yeah, you know what we did? We mixed the salad with the cabbage, kind of mixed them together. And
right,
yeah, it's pretty tasty. Hey,
right.
hey Bob, I don't know if you know, I don't see any video of you. Is your can you turn, I think there's like might be a video button to turn on or
Let me see here.
and I apologize. I know sometimes if you're not used to using these apps like Zoom or whatever, then it's it can be a little tricky, but there might be a button there or something that
I don't see a button here for it.
okay.
No, I don't. Well, let me see there. Right, Zoom, sound. That's about it. I don't see anything else here. No. Oh, wait a minute. Down here at the bottom. How's
There you
that?
go. Hey, beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
I see you. You see me now.
Well, Bob, I want to thank you for being willing to participate in this. We're up to about 20 of these now that we've done. And uh, when we first started, I wasn't quite sure, how it was going to go, but it's been going well. And so we have, over 10 hours of video. And Dr. Shukla's hiring a guy that's going to edit and, splice you and me and all the other 20 people together and to show kind of how our answers flow from one to the other, that kind of thing. So it'll be good to share it with the students that are looking to for potential of getting into a career in jobs like we had.
Yeah.
So really appreciate your involvement.
I'm happy to take part in it,
Yeah,
however small it may be.
yeah, yeah. We all do our play our part. So the first question I have to ask you is, how did you decide on a career in quality and operations and manufacturing? How did that occur?
Well, it was kind of out of necessity. It was when I graduated out of Cal Poly, I was hired into an investment firm
Oh, wow.
out of Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was IDS Investments. They were a pretty big company. And it was basically, I was selling financial plans to, you know, investors or people like me and my wife who were young, just getting started in their lives. And so basically, I was like my own little boss. But my major was in, I graduated BS in business management with a specialization in industrial management. So I wasn't really using my education at totally per se at that time when I was working for them. The drawback that I had was that I was my own boss, and I was an athlete in school. It took me 5 years to graduate, so because of being an athlete, it took an awful lot of time, and so I had catch up year in my 5th year to be able to get all the credits I needed to graduate after my time in athletics had ended. So when I graduated, I kind of, being my own boss, I set my own hours, and sometimes it was hard to become motivated to do things on certain days, and that was kind of like the college life invading my personal life afterwards.
Yes.
And my wife was pregnant the very first year I got out of school. And so I just kind of decided I needed to make sure I get a weekly paycheck because my investment job was commission only. And so my brother-in-law actually told me that they had an opening in an aerospace firm that manufactured rotating components for gas turbine engines, rotors and impellers and fan blades, and I'm sure you know all this stuff, being from Boeing. And I asked him what the position was, and he goes, "Well, it's a position in quality. You'd be a, a lead in the quality department at night, and in the overnight shift." And I said, "Well, that's better than what I'm doing." So I took the job, and within a year, I moved up to the day shift, and it was pretty much most aerospace government work, a lot of government work. We manufactured, I think, all the components for the cruise missile program for the U.S. military. And so I was in quality at that time, and I don't think for a brief period, I went out of quality, but for the most part, in the following 47 years, I was involved in quality.
Wow. Did you go to Pomona or San Luis Obispo?
I went to Pomona.
Pomona. Okay. Okay.
Cal Poly Polytechnic State University in Pomona. It's quite a tongue twister to come up with all that when people ask you.
Yes. Yes.
We just kind of shorten it, say Cal Poly. Everybody thinks it's San Luis Obispo, but this one was Pomona. So,
Right. Right.
I went to play baseball. I didn't really know too much about the school, but I had good. I don't know if you remember Coach Bernie Harr from Linwood High.
Yes.
I went to Linwood High to go play baseball there because I was scheduled out of my Catholic school upbringing to go to a Catholic high school. And on the very last day before I was going to start, I told my mom I wanted to go to Linwood instead, and I went there. And Coach Harr had connections with both Cal Polys, so he set me up with probably one of the greatest baseball minds I have ever come in contact with over at Cal Poly. He actually was a kind of a father figure to all of us, so that was a very good experience.
And
That's
and you played baseball your whole time there at school?
yeah, we played 4 years, and we were, when coming in, at that time, you couldn't come in as a freshman and play varsity sports. You had to go through the process. And so we had a freshman team, and we won there's a West Coast league called the uh, uh, California Athletic Association, and we won that championship. And then we all went to the varsity our sophomore years, and when we were seniors, we won a NCAA Division II championship. So we
Wow.
were a pretty good baseball team. It was a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you must have been really good because you played right on through college. That's really something.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Tim, when I continued out of college, I tooled around with a couple of local semi-pro teams in Southern California here, and I played till I was almost 30. So while I was working, it worked out pretty good.
That's great. Did
Yeah.
you were you in that group that when you go like semi-pro or whatever, you get your own bats and everything with your name on it? And
No, it doesn't go that far at that level. You have to actually latch into a minor league system to be able to get those kind of privileges as part of your contract. Um, I was my problem was in one of my years in school, I was headed towards uh, going for a tryout at a minor league team, and I ended up after the second game of that collegiate year, I got in a pretty bad car accident, and that kind of derailed me, and I never got back to that level. So, yeah, such is life. But I
right.
don't regret anything I did. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You've had quite a career. I mean, to work in the industry for 47 years. Um, and right off the bat, within a year, you got off second shift. I know how that is, being on second shift, and your heart's desires to have a normal life, and you want to get back to first. Some people love second shift or third shift, but I wanted to be back on first shift, and I'm like you. It took me about a year, but I got back to first shift. So, can you talk a little bit about your career, and what can you give us the name of the company you worked for?
Sure. When I started, the company name was Ace Industries. It was a family-run organization. It had actually 3 shifts. There was probably about 75 employees on each shift, uh, which made it kind of like almost a medium-sized business.
Yeah,
Um, very intricate work, and uh, gained valuable knowledge in the quality field out of that, because going in, I didn't really have any knowledge at all. But I did have uh, that degree in my favor for, stepping at that lower level lead lead position, and it worked out quite well. I had great people working for me. So I stayed there 20 years, and from there I got a phone call from I actually, when I was there, I kind of became I vaulted into the senior quality engineer position, and I had become kind of a specialist at writing quality systems for the company. I had to do
right.
it for the ISO and the AS standards back in 1994, I believe. And so I wrote their quality manuals, I wrote their procedure manuals, their work instructions, and to the day they closed, they still had my manuals in place. So I'm kind of proud of that.
Yeah,
They
that's quite an achievement.
they closed like 4 or 5 years ago. Uh, but from there, I got a phone call from a casting company that was in dire need of having uh, their quality system rewrote to comply with the standards, and they were under the gun time wise to get it done. They had some big contracts coming up that they could not lose. and would I be interested in coming over and doing that for them? And they said that at that time that I completed it, and if successful, that they would make me the quality assurance manager. And I said, sure, I'd be interested in doing that. So I went over there. I left Ace Industries and I went over there, and it was a company called Miller Castings. And they had a 6-month mandate to have everything in place, or they would have to go somewhere else for those contracts. So I got them the system written and the procedures all done. I got them approved in 3 months. And
Outstanding.
from that point, I became the quality manager and just managed the system. It was a difficult place to work at. It was family run as well as Ace Industries was. But the son that was in charge of it was a difficult person to work with. But I was willing and able to work around that and make things work. But fortunately for me, I got a phone call from a supplier quality engineer in Arizona for Honeywell. And they had a company that was kind of in the same boat that needed a whole quality system done. They didn't have any basis to work with. And they had no procedures and no work instructions. And they were looking for a quality manager that they could bring in to get that done. And he asked me, he knew that I was not real happy where I was at Miller Castings, but he just asked me the question if I knew anyone who might be interested. And I said, sure. and I told him that I would be interested. And he said, I'll call you back. And he called me back in 2 minutes. And he said, you have an appointment with this company tomorrow afternoon. Can you make it? And I said, sure, I'll be there. And I walked in the door, and the company name was ViStar Gear in Paramount, California. And walked in the door, and the owner president hired me like within 3 minutes.
Wow.
And it was all based on that recommendation from Honeywell, because we had a lot of Honeywell contracts at Miller Castings and at Ace Industries, so they knew me. And I don't really like to toot my horn too much, but anyways, I got in there with the ViStar, and I stayed there 27 years, and just retired 4 months this month. It'll be four months retired. They're still there. They're doing well, and we manufacture gears for the military and for commercial contracts, for aerospace gears, for flight and for ground applications, and for sea applications. We owned a patent on a gearbox that landed the aircraft on the aircraft carriers, and it was kind of a neat little deal, and paved the way for a lot of good things to happen in my life. So.
Now, when you say gear for landing on aircraft, you talking about landing gear for the airplane or the gear on the ship?
It was a small gearbox. It was probably about 15 inches in length and about 6 inches in height, with like 4 or 5 different gears that we manufactured that we would assemble. We designed it, we patented it, and we sold it to the Navy many years ago. And it if you watch any movies on like Top Gun, when the aircraft is approaching the aircraft carrier, they have what they call a light stand called the Christmas tree.
Yes.
And that Christmas tree would lock onto the aircraft and guide the aircraft in and tell them, their flight, whether they're level or, too low, too high, all that good stuff.
Yes.
And the gearbox we manufactured went into that Christmas tree, and it controlled that, and so it could lock onto the aircraft.
Oh, very cool.
So it was a pretty good little deal there.
Yeah, I worked on the T-45 program, which was a fighter trainer,
Right.
and we started working on that. Gosh, I'm thinking it was probably back in the, I don't know, it was back in the 90s, and we weren't. It was based on a British aircraft, but we made it a carrier based. It went from a regular, fighter trainer to a carrier fighter trainer, and so we had to change the leading edge of the aircraft and everything. But it was highly successful. They ended up building them for about 25 years.
Yeah, I think they still use them today, as a matter of fact.
I think they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's great. So can you talk a little bit about the nature of your work that you did? Maybe a couple highlights of the things you were involved with. I know you already hit like the manuals and ISO and ASI and all that stuff, which is fantastic. And you were a leader, but can you talk a little bit about the nature of the work that was going on there? Like what was QA doing? Were you a lead over other quality engineers? Is that what you were doing?
When I was at Ace Industries, I was a lead over a inspection department that was about 6 different employees, and it was kind of back in those days. They didn't have CMMs, coordinate measuring machines, were kind of in the infancy stages, and so we did a lot of manual type inspections using 30-inch comparators and table work. Um, so I was basically the overseer of that, scheduling their work, uh, helping out where I could help out, solving problems that they would run into. Those comparators used to, like, in a gas turbine, where the veins, the actual passages that are created for airflow through the engine. Uh, we used to trace those against Mylars on those 30-inch comparators. We had a tracing mechanism that the vice president of the company had invented, and it kind of became the standard at that time for inspecting different types of vanes and fan blades and stuff like that. You'd make Mylars with the coordinates from the drawings that you were using, and it would actually detail the sections at different distances away from the center line of the part, that you would trace this little probe with your fingers, and it would project into the comparator that tracing with the Mylar on top of it. And you could tell how far within or out of tolerance you were at that point, and what adjustments needed to be made on the machines. But that was the invention, the coming out of the CMM kind of eliminated all that stuff. So, and so I was in charge of that at Ace Industries. When I don't really want to talk about Miller Castings because that was just such a short time. But when I went to ViStar, I always said that I had 23 people working for me every day, because everyone in that shop depended on the quality department. I only had one guy directly that I was in charge of, but they all came to me through him with all their problems every day. So I was heavily involved in the actual quality inspection functions within that shop, in addition to the management of the system itself. I did I became a certified internal auditor, and I'm sure you're aware of all of that. I did all the audits. I trained the internal auditors that did all that work for me. and got them all certified. The daily operations were, I said this to a lot of people every day. It was like you walk in the door and you just start to solve problems every day. Uh, and it was a lot of interesting work, but it kind of wears on you after 27 years.
Yeah.
Um, I became a senior fellow in the American Society for Quality. I also was a president of the American Management Association out in the Western region. And it's a national organization, which I would go and manage a monthly meeting with them and attend national functions at the same time. So that was interesting stuff that I did. But that's really pretty much everything in a little bag right there.
Yeah, you talk about the job, the work can wear on you, and I feel that. It took me a long time to figure out that there was always going to be more work. Because for many years, you were probably salaried. I know I was salaried, and I would stay late almost every night trying to get more work done, trying to get ahead of it, trying to get ready for the next day, finish up open loose action items from that day. And it finally dawned on me, but I was probably well into my 50s by the time I figured it out. What was that there'll always be more work to do.
Right.
Tomorrow when I went in, like you said, you go in the door, you start solving problems, and that's the way, the nature of the beast. So that's something, I think that's a good lesson to learn, right? Is that you have to accept the fact that there's always going to be work to do. There's always a challenge, and you have to work in date. I remember Dale Carnegie training. They talked about day tight compartments.
Right.
Don't worry about all the past. Don't worry about all the future. Just work that one day, and then go home and have a life, right?
Right. Exactly. It took me quite a long time as well to come to that realization. I mean, I worked a lot of hours when I was at Ace Industries for those 20 years, and even when over at Miller Castings, I put in very long days. We had to, me specifically, had to be in there in the shop at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the guy who ran the place would typically show up around 11 o'clock, and he would stay till 10, sometimes 11 o'clock at night. And he expected the management team to be working as well while he was there. So my hours were from 8 to 10, 8 to 11. I was working very long days.
Wow.
And when I went to ViStar, and I needed a push from the owner to come up and believe exactly what you just said, that there's always going to be work there, and you don't have to tackle everything in one day. And from that, I learned and to manage what's in front of me, and when I'm done with that, go on and end my day as normal people would do, and leave it behind me, and go enjoy life as you stated, with my wife, my kids, my grandkids. And it worked quite well over the years at ViStar Gear, and I was grateful to Tom over there for opening my eyes to that fact, because I was just running myself ragged. I mean, it led to a very serious medical situation when I was 47 years old, and it just, I needed to make a change, and he helped me do that.
That's great. Bob, I wanted to ask you a question about you are a good athlete. I would tend to say great athlete, because very few people can play at a college level, yeah, or even semi-pro afterwards, like you did. What do you think there's something about you whether it's your personality or your character or your upbringing or something you muster in yourself to drive you to not only have a great athletic career, but to have a successful professional career in operations, and then of course the family as well. Well, can you talk a little bit about that? You know, I'm not asking you to be overly personal. I don't want to, it's not like an expose or anything, but obviously there's something special about you because you've had a great life so far. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, everything kind of came from my dad, Tim. I don't know when I knew you when we were younger, if you ever met my dad or not. Uh, he was an immigrant from Scotland. As a matter of fact, I'm what they call a subject of the Queen King now, which means I'm a British citizen.
Oh,
I'm
really?
not, yeah, I'm not a U.S. citizen, but my dad, throughout my life, drove me to pick something that I really wanted to be good at. He said it was important that you wanted to be good at something. Uh, you don't have to be, the superstar of the world or anything. If you want to strive for that, you can, and you can get there. Uh, but whatever you do, be good at it. And he, I decided when I was very young that I wanted to be a baseball player and knew nothing about the game. I was still way too young to even understand what I was talking about, to be honest with you. But he took me, and being a guy, my dad, I'm talking about, he knew nothing of the game as well, but he determined to learn how to do it himself. Uh, and so he self-taught and studied up and learned the game of baseball. And he had the drive to teach me, and every day that's all we did. And that's a valuable lesson to me, is that, if you're going to be good at something, you have to do it, and you have to do it well. uh, they always said, all my coaches, practice makes perfect, practice makes perfect. Well, my dad changed that, and he instilled in me the drive that perfect practice perfect. And so even when you're practicing, trying to be better, you have to show that you're getting to that plateau. You're practicing as best you can at whatever you're learning. And I took that further in my life, and that drove me, and to be the best that I can at everything I could do. As I stated earlier to you, I was not that good at it when I was first out of college. But I had that incentive when I had a family on the way, that I need to adapt that measure again, and that's what I did from that point forward throughout my career. Uh, I made sure that everything I did was always on the up and up, and that the challenges that were always presented to me were not something that would never be overcome. I could always figure out a way to come up with the right answers, and that's what drove me every day. Uh, I got up every day and chat with the challenge that were facing me, and I faced them, and with the help of good people, I managed to climb up the ladder to where I'm at right now. I can say that it was a good life for me, and a good life for my wife, for my kids, and now for my grandkids. So that drive that was instilled in me by my dad was what really got me going.
That's outstanding. That's a great story. I think we're blessed to have good families, to have good parents. I remember when we were going to Linva High School, you and and I was in bed, and it was, I don't know, 7 a.m., 6:30 in the morning, and we're not even up yet, right? But I remember my mom's car starting up, and she was heading off to work at 7 a.m. And I thought, I'm still in bed. And,
Yeah.
and as selfish as a teenager can be, in my mind, I said, that is sacrifice. My
Right.
mom, who's, 25 years older than me or whatever she was, 22 years older, was up, dressed, fed, and off to work at 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m., and
Right.
that set an example. And then my dad was in aerospace, and he helped get me into Douglas, many years ago. But the guy who hired me said, I'm going to hire you partly based on your education experience, and then based on your dad's word. But he goes, after that, it's all on you. He goes,
Right.
you screw up, it'll look bad on your dad. And I always remembered that. So I got the same sort of thing. Although my dad didn't work with me, on sports and baseball and stuff like that. But same thing. It was a good example.
Yeah. Yeah. He was the biggest driving force in my life, and that was one of the other reasons that I went to Cal Poly to play baseball was and you can look this up, or anyone can look this up. The coach that I had, his name was John Scalinas, and he was the winningest coach in Division II history at that time. And he actually was, I mean, I think he was older than my dad when I went to go to school there and play for him. But he became my father figure at that point, and such a great man. Just continued the ethic that my dad had instilled in me when I was a kid. And so I always say to people, well, I kind of had like two fathers in my life, and it worked out quite well. The character that they built in me, because they both exhibited the drive that you mentioned in your mom, in getting up and facing the day and accepting the challenges that you have, and
Mhm.
and you know overcoming those challenges, and looking forward to the next one that comes up, and to
Uh,
do it in a dignified and honest manner. My parents were, you know nothing but the most honest people I've ever known in my life, and Coach Scalinas was the same way, and uh, that character was just strengthened by that man after I left Cal Poly. So
Right. So you had really good mentors, which was great. And you picked good mentors, people that you admired, whether it was your dad or a coach.
right,
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think that's a good lesson for people that are looking to the future. And what looking back on my career, some of those challenges that we had, the problems to solve, and some of them were major. Like one time we had an in-flight emergency on the C-17, and a pipe, a duct cover had somebody had taken it off to do something in that duct, and when they put it in there, they put the cover, they tacoed it, they bent it sideways
hmm
and slid it in there, and it had migrated up into the duct. Well,
mm,
they put the aircraft all back together, and then when they were dumping fuel over the ocean to test that capability, that cover got stuck in the valve, and so they couldn't turn it off. So they were dumping fuel that they shouldn't have been,
well,
and they declared an in-flight emergency. Anyway, we went into work one day, and we found out that when they were flying, they had that in-flight emergency, and that created a big challenge. But a lot of times with challenge comes opportunity. You
right.
know, don't you think that in your career where you had a big challenge and you managed it, you worked through it, you resolved it or whatever, and then they go, hey, if you ever have a problem with this or that, then go see Bob, and then you become that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. Well, that's the challenges and quality that you face all the time.
Yeah.
Um, I always, there's the dreaded word, corrective action when you're in the
Yes.
quality business, and
Yes.
no one likes to respond to cause and corrective actions, and